So here we are at Impact Ventures 2018. I'm with Jessica Straus of GE Ventures. Welcome.
Thank you.
So Jessica, I have to ask, before you came into GE Ventures, your background.
Sure. So going back 10 years, I graduated from Davidson College, home of Steph Curry.
Was he playing basketball then?
He was.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I was a year ahead of him. And I decided the one thing I hadn't studied in college very much was politics. So I immediately moved to Washington, D.C., ended up spending 5 years on Capitol Hill, was a speechwriter for the former House Majority Leader Eric Cantor. And there I worked with him on a bill called the Jobs Act, which was landmark legislation opening up access to capital for entrepreneurs, putting in place the regulatory framework for equity crowdfunding and other seminal policies. So from there, I decided to join the tech ecosystem that our policies had been supporting, moved to New York, joined a tech startup. Then from there decided, hey, what's this investment world all about? And I've spent the past 4 years immersed in the venture capital world and was most recently with the National Venture Capital Association, which is the trade group representing US VC, and joined GE Ventures last summer as an entrepreneur in residence to work on special projects for the team.
What a remarkable background of doing so much, and it's very diverse of coming before you came into the GE Ventures. So at your role at GE Ventures is are you dealing with vetting out companies, or what do you do?
So at GE Ventures, the team does three things. One, we make investments into emerging growth companies. We create companies, and we also have our licensing portfolio. So it's a very broad platform. And within that, I'm working across the entire platform to develop our diversity and inclusion investment strategy. So as you may have heard here today at the conference and elsewhere, there's a major crisis of diversity in the venture capital ecosystem. So around 3% of funds raised are raised by women entrepreneurs. So we need to begin to do more work to change that ratio. And the number of women partners is less than 11% of total partners in the industry. So GE Ventures has been very proactive in this regard and brought me on board to develop a strategy to help solve that from our perspective.
When you're looking at bringing up that community and changing the landscape of how deals are funded and also to getting more women entrepreneurs, do you have specific strategies in place? And
so what we're very grateful to have at GE Ventures is a very diverse investment team. We have women of color, and a very diverse group of backgrounds on our team. So what we're really looking to do is help our portfolio companies implement the same kind of strategy. And we have a 4-pillar framework we call R2P2, which is recruitment, retention, promotion, and protection. And those are the 4 elements that are necessary to build any great team, but certainly a diverse one. So those are thinking about how do you bring people in the door? And for a portfolio company, that's not only who's on the team, who's on the board of that team. Private company boards are extraordinarily influential in how the company grows, and that's an area where there needs to be increased diversity, particularly because the importance of those decisions made by the board. So one is this focus on recruiting. Who's on the team? How do you get them in the door? And then promotion and retention are really about how do we create a culture that people want to stay in once the talent has been procured? And how do you find pathways for every person to see their path to the top? And then finally, protection, which is key in any workplace, proper governance, proper conduct, and all of that being monitored.
Now you're located in the Bay Area, Menlo Park?
Menlo Park, yep.
And but geographically, how far do you guys reach? Are you worldwide with GE Ventures? Or?
Yeah, we are worldwide. The majority of our focus is on the U.S., but we also have an office in Tel Aviv in Israel. The Israeli startup ecosystem is best in class, and we wanted to make sure that we had visibility into that ecosystem. We focus on sectors that are core to GE as a business. So healthcare, power, advanced manufacturing, and software that enables industrial processes. And Israel is a fantastic enterprise tech ecosystem, and then certainly in the U.S. And we have GE is everywhere, so we're able to tap into that full global network.
So, Jessica, when you look at the economy or the landscape of the venture capital today, how do you see this?
The landscape of venture is extremely interesting from the perspective that innovation ecosystems are growing all over the world. I just returned from 3 weeks in the Middle East and Israel, and I was astounded to see a seed fund in Amman, Jordan, called Propeller, that is really, kind of one in its class in the city, and it's doing everything it can to support the startup ecosystem there. Likewise, Tel Aviv is quite far advanced, and even in Palestine, met 2 venture capital firms there. So I think what's interesting, if you take from a macro perspective, is that the U.S. used to invest the majority of venture capital, and U.S. companies raise the majority of venture capital. That's no longer the case. Now, the U.S. investors deploy about half of the venture capital going into companies around the world. So that means that investors outside of the U.S. are growing and investing in companies. And I think that we will see a lot of change over the next 5-10 years.
Well, Jessica, it's a pleasure visiting with you today at Impact 2018.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.